Welcome to Popcorn Planet. I am Andy Signore. We are live. I'm with It's Kim, and we are ready for another hearing because, Kim, it'll never end with anybody. Nope. Just so you guys are updated, this is going to be probably a long live. We're waiting. The hearing is not televised. We will be using Intercity Press to help us, but other friendlies are there, including our own Elsrich is out there. I hear she talked to Sigrid, and it was epic, so I'm going to try to find that. So I actually sent some questions to try to see if we could get. Well, let's see what she said, because she's got the guts to do what I would have loved to have done too. And so I want to see Elsie. She's in, I imagine, lining up and inside the courtroom. Carol's there as well from Docket Updates. We'll have her.
I'm sorry. Hi, Andy.
What's up? Dude, you were so amazing with Sigrid.
Thank you.
And those
saw my live with Sigrid?
Oh my God, yeah, we all were watching. You should ask those protesters if they're paid.
I wanted to ask them why they didn't subpoena me.
For real, dude, you were a badass.
Just a little bit scared of me.
The way you were going on Sigrid was amazing. We were all so
I just actually got to talk to her outside of court. She's very, very nice, I have to say. Nicer than everybody on Blake's side. I mean, she's their communication person.
There, go talk to him. We're just following you too. Go do your thing. You can follow.
Andy, there you go.
Brian is helping. Wait, follow the action just so we see what's happening here.
That's that. Wait, here you go. Hi, Brian.
Hi.
Oh, Andy's gonna talk to you real quick, then I'll talk to you. Andy.
Brian, fantastic. Brian. How do you feel it went today?
I feel like it went exactly as it probably should have gone. I mean, Judge Lyman's a really smart judge. He'll make the best decision on something that hopefully he'll make the right decision, but the best decision on something that's the brand new statute that's hard to dictate. But I thought the most telling moment for me was when he said, pretty clearly, like, your judge, your client could have ended this whole thing by just continuing onward. I mean, it kind of makes somewhat of no sense why we're here, right? Like, if this was over, this was over. Right?
Also, the Seventh Amendment thing, which they seem to just gloss over, that's a pretty big deal, is it not?
I think every amendment's a big deal for Judge Lyman, for sure.
So, feeling confident overall. Do you think it's a split? Do you think he's going to make you guys pay some fees? And if that's the case, how do you respond to that?
I have no idea how I respond to the whole thing, honestly, is that Justin Baldoni and Jamie Heath and Wayfair have always erred on the side of doing the right thing, doing the kind thing. It's in the text message. It's everywhere. Yeah. The reason this case was settled was because it was settled for essentially nothing. It was settled because it was, would have put an end to it. And that was the better thing for everyone, emotionally and in other ways. If there was a finding of fault, or there was a wrong, or there was a cost, he never would have said this. He wouldn't have voluntarily agreed to pay dollars. So it was always about, once the sexual harassment got resolved, and once the sexual harassment was resolved in his favor, from there it was not an issue that you couldn't resolve, because everything else were issues you can resolve. And when somebody says, you're liable for sexual harassment and you sexually harassed me, we needed an adjudication on the point. We got an adjudication on that. I think we have one actually. Frankly, Justin Baldoni is not even part of the case anymore. We're not even really talking about it. So, I know, we came in this and day one after he was sued for sexual harassment, we knew one thing: we could not settle this case with a finding in any way of any liability to sexual harassment. We couldn't settle or pay $1 or do anything that would not resolve those issues. We got a ruling, on 10 of the 13 claims that was in our favor on summary judgment. And as a result of that, that ruling said there's no sexual harassment, and that made the case settleable.
One last question before you go to Elsie. This case never seems to end. He's implying that you might have to do the Daubert motions. How likely do you think that is? And do you think there is an end? Is there an end line in sight in your eyes? What do you think is going to happen next?
I think that if she wanted to litigate the case, she's going to continue with the case, and that was her right as a plaintiff and as a human being. And we'll see. And if that's what the ruling is, then that's what the ruling is, and we'll see it in another court, or we won't. But, the most important thing, honestly, is you would hope at some point people move on and move on to the next things in their lives, and they recover from this, they heal from this, and they move forward from this. But, once you're sued for sexual harassment, there's nothing you can do but get an adjudication, especially when you're innocent. You haven't done anything that amounted to that. And frankly, that's what the case proved. He was innocent of sexual harassment and is not liable for it, either with Jamie and any of the other defendants. And that's truly the most important part of the case, because I'm sure everybody can identify with being wrongfully accused of something. And when that happens, you fight. And you have no choice but to go forward and win. Nobody wants to be sitting here paying this kind of money and spending this kind of time and energy and emotional and other abuses that and tolls it takes, right? But the truth is this, like, everyone looks back on their life and says, on some things, hey, I should have stood up for myself. I should have stood up, because that wasn't right. That wasn't true. And this was a chance for Justin to do that. He was able to do it. And we're happy about that. And everything that comes as a result of this is what it is. But as far as the sexual harassment was concerned, which is why we were here day one. I mean, we can't switch around and say, oh, this case was never about that. It was always about that. Why we fought. It's why we spent all this money. It's why we spent all the time. It's why we inconvenienced all these people. And and we're pleased that he was able to fight back on that. And for him, for his wife, his family, his kids. And he looks at himself in the mirror. When Jamie Heath, the same thing. You know what? Thank God there's a procedure and a way that you can try to prove that you're not liable for something. I'm grateful for this. And Andy, you do a great job. And I'll talk to you about your own kind of the video that I saw. I mean, honestly, you're supremely talented, and we'll always have a career in this because of your skill set and your passion that you bring to this. I'm really proud to know you and proud to have followed you and watched you. And I thought you've done an amazing job.
Thank you, Adam. We hope to get you in the interview for the documentary we're doing. Stay tuned, guys. We're in talks with his office trying to get you involved. Appreciate you, sir. I know Elsie's got questions too, but we'll have you on soon. Go ahead, Elsie, take over.
You should have flown here.
Yeah, no, I know. It was my wife's anniversary, so I couldn't go. But
yeah, you're welcome.
Well, that was fun. Elsie talked to Brian, and we had some more stuff. You'll want to watch the full show, but I want to give you guys also a quick recap within this recap of what actually happened in that courtroom, which I wanted to do before we got to Brian, but I couldn't reorder these segments. This was a live show. That's why you got to catch us live, guys, or go to popcornplanet.com, and you can always watch our replays in their full entirety. But let's go through what actually happened in that courtroom, because there was a lot of reveals, Kim. Right out the gate, it felt like Lyman was just right pressing Blake Lively's team. That was the vibe I got throughout the whole entire piece. You're asking the court for relief. Ordinarily, you bear the burden. Do you have anything that would apply 47-1 to a fee application for damages? Right out the gate, Lyman sort of seems to, give his view, Kim, is how I read that, of just like, okay, this is why I called you here. Why do you get this again? I want to hear your case law. Tell me what it is, right? And then, Gottlieb was just kind of very confident in like, well, this is what it is. This is new, but this is mandatory under 34, blah, 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 blah. You're saying the burden would be on Baldoni to show malice or pay treble damages? First Amendment applies to both sides. It's the same amendment. No, basically he's like, well, but doesn't he protect it as well? You can't just confidently say it only goes towards to Blake. So again, right out the gate, Lyman just pushing back pretty aggressively, saying this is not how it works. And then, Blake's side, California can make the tort of defamation available to some. Lyman pushing back, but the damages could far exceed attorney's fees. There was a lot of back and forth, Kim, but even from the beginning, Lyman going like, now, let's assume I didn't touch malice at all with respect to Miss Lively. I don't think I did touch malice. He's, again, making it clear, like, I didn't give you that. Stop assuming so many things. Are you getting this vibe as we're reading this partial transcript from Intercity Press that Lyman wasn't having it with Blake's team right out the gate?
I think Lyman's frustrated. I've definitely caught the vibe as we've been following this case that 47.1 being a new law, any decision that Lyman makes on it is going to be very influential. And he is a federal judge for the Southern District of New York. It's weird. And I don't think that this is a decision he's ever really, that he wanted to make, but he is now in this position. That's my personal opinion and speculation based on what I've seen over the past year and a half. And I think he's trying to make sure that whatever decision he makes, that there is as much of a precedence as possible so that he can make the best choice that he can.
Yeah, and so all those choices are based on a lot of pushback here that I think he is very clearly doing. You know, I think it's still important. I don't think I touched malice. He's making it clear, like, I didn't do any of this. When he dismissed Wayfair's case, he made no finding that anyone acted with malice. And so there, you know, as he's trying to make this argument that all there is here to calculate is damages, is what Blake's side is trying to say, is nonsense. And then even Lyman's like, well, how does that make sense? How do you square that with Rule 54? And so the whole thing was clear when Lyman requested this hearing. I think that, you know, he wanted to have both sides really make it clear what was, you know, why do you get this, right? Is what he was trying to say. And let's not also fail to point out that Blake squeezed in so much crap in what was supposed to be 2 pages, with so much crap that they didn't need to put in here because they always are just so entitled to do whatever they want. And then, you know, Justin fit it into 2. Much more organized. Here's what you asked for, Judge. Here's the case law. We're done and done. Yours truly. Good for them, right? Right out the gate, they're following the rules. And so anyway, it keeps going in. But what was really telling was when they get into sort of the Constitution, which they're trying to, one side's just basically trying to ignore. There's a part where the judge basically even says, is your client damaged? Which to me was pretty damning, where he's sort of calling out, like, does she even deserve this? To me, this was the biggest surprise, was when the judge literally is relying on the Constitution and calls back out and says, we asked this in our motion to dismiss. Judge Lyman goes, without any jury trial, would that comply with the 7th Amendment? Is that even constitutional, basically? And Gottlieb, Blake's attorney, goes, well, that hasn't been raised here. I'd like to reserve the balance of my time. And he basically just dodges the question. He's like, yeah, well, no one brought up the Constitution, so I don't see how that's relevant, Your Honor. That's the judge's job, is to make sure constitutionally everyone is covered without it being mentioned in the letters. And it's just kind of very telling, to me at least, that they clearly didn't want to get into that dispute and really argue the fact that this isn't constitutional, which just feels like everything Blake's done this whole time with Van Zam and the way she went after the content creators. To me, she has not actually, she's done everything as sneaky as she could. You know, I guess allegedly against the law. She's done it all by the book technically, but all of it feels just very shady. Kim, do you know what I'm talking about? Do you get this vibe that they don't really want to follow the Constitution when they don't want to, but when it does help them, then they do? You know what I mean?
I think they want to win, and I get it. You know, Ms. Lively wants a win, because regardless of the way that they have characterized this settlement, the way that I look at it is, originally when she filed her claims, she had, I believe she dropped 2 of them. And then she moved forward with 13. And then 10 of them got thrown out, motion for summary judgment. And then the remaining ones were still on thin ice. She gave up her trial. She could have gone to trial. She could have had all these things proven if that's what she wanted to do. But that's not what happened. And now we're here. And it almost feels like, you know, as Ellen Garofalo brings up at the end, it's like, are we going to have to open up the Daubert stuff? Are we going to have to do more hearings and stuff? Like, this is madness. They settled. This should be done.
Yeah, they say specifically, Miss Lively represented that damages would be established by experts, and there are none because they settled before they got to these Daubert hearings. So again, it was a pretty good kill shot from Justin's team to be like, well, how are we supposed to establish damages when they don't even let us confirm that their experts are experts, let alone talk about what those damages are? And then it got even more intense, where he's like, you know, the judge's like, oh, so how do you respond to that, Blake? Well, blah, blah, blah. What 47 was trying to address holes in 47, where SH plaintiffs were targeted. The legislation could not have intended for 47-1 claims to just disappear. And then the judge just flat out says, I'm not sure how to make the statute work except as a counterclaim. Which, again, he's like, it doesn't work, guys. He's just saying it out loud. If the court found that there was a discoverable issue with respect to malice, it would be resolved at trial. You would create a satellite litigation. And so he's basically calling out the problems with this, which there clearly are. And so, you know, at the end of the day, as they continued, as you can see, it was a pretty quick hearing. The judge flat out says, your client has the ability to end this by saying, I'm not seeking. And then he stops himself. I'm not telling you to do that. This is just an interesting legal question. And then basically this implies, well, if you just asked for fees, you'd get them, is how I'm reading this and how sort of experts, if you just went for fees, that's a likely thing that Blake could technically get. how much those fees are up to dispute, but it wouldn't be the 100 million that she's asking for in damages. But because she's also trying to package in damages, that's why this is now getting more complicated. And the judge is kind of showing them, just ask for fees and let's all move on. And they're not. So will that ultimately damage? Finally, Justin's team got the last word with Garofalo saying one more point, reiterating the 7th Amendment. This is an end run around the trial that was eliminated by the settlement. And the judge is like, I got it. You don't need to have that. You made that clear. And I sense the judge is like, I agree. Like, don't waste time on that we don't need to talk about it, because I don't think he would have pushed that away so clearly if he wasn't already like, yes, trust me, we're on the same page. And so Garofalo admits again, we had Daubert motions scheduled, but they'd have to be reopened, which then implies, Kim, that we'd have to have more hearings to confirm now damages, and it never ends. Final thoughts,
you guys
Kim?
settled. You settled. And the fact that this is still going on to me is crazy. I hope we do get an answer soon. I know the way that I want it to turn out. We'll see what happens. And either way, I think 47.1 is very flawed at this stage, and I hope that there's ways that they can strengthen it, because I think that it is incredibly vulnerable, and survivors bluntly deserve better.
Thank you guys so much for watching. If you want to see more from our documentary and more, make sure you go over to popcornplanet.com or go to itendswithjustice.com. Learn more over there. Sign up today. You can watch all the full replays of today, our outside the court coverage, our breakdowns, etc., and so much more. Make sure you also support It's Kim by going over to It's Kim and subscribing there, and subscribing here by hitting the bell for all alerts. When you get those notifications, you become part of the Planeteer notification squad. And when you get those notifications, smash the thumbs up, watch them when you get them, leave a comment. All that stuff helps us tremendously. We got a lot more coming your way. We will keep you updated on this case and so much more. So stay tuned here on Popcorn Planet.